ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
This is Dive, a podcast about where our Google searches take us, and today we're talking about Star Wars, on our podcast.
Your eardrums can't repel a podcast of this magnitude.
And I think we're just X-winging it here.
Hey-o, come on.
Lock X-wings in attack position.
S-foils, you mean?
X-foils, yep.
S-foils. You call yourself a Star Wars fan.
Did I?
Yes?
Cut it out. Cut it out.
At what point did he...
It's not on record, I guess.
Well, okay, so let's dive into this, if
Hey.
we will. I have to say that I don't think that I actually watched Star Wars until I was a middle to late teenager. Actually, truly sat down and watched them, paying attention to them.
Oh, wow.
I am pretty sure, don't quote me on this, I watched the prequel trilogy before I watched the original trilogy all the way through. So I had to have seen bits and pieces here and there because I knew all of the story, but I don't remember ever watching the original Star Wars trilogy and going, oh my God, this is life-changing. This is awesome. And I do also remember knowing, spoiler alert, Darth Vader is Luke's father prior to knowing anything about the movies.
We should probably say, if you haven't watched every Star Wars movie, officially sanctioned Star Wars movie, probably should turn this off because this is all spoilers. All the time.
However, you definitely now know that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father because I said spoiler alert and then continued talking quickly.
Yes, yeah. So you didn't give a chance to the audience to mute you or pause the podcast.
But also,
who's Porkin Palpy?
Who's Porkin Palpy?
Who is Porkin him? Because our boy Palpy, he been fucking. Palpy's been fucking.
So where do you want to start? Do you want to begin with the latest installment of the Skywalker saga?
I think we do. I think that's where we start.
I would love to talk about just like you talked about your fandom. I would love to have some context for Dan.
Okay.
And to give some context for myself.
Yeah.
If that's a good place. And then we can jump into the most recent.
The topic at hand, the porkining.
Star Wars. the porking of Palpy.
Oh, man. I think I started the Star Wars Trek, dare I say, journey.
Can't say early. Trek. That's Star Trek.
That's a different franchise.
Probably watched Star Trek before Star Wars in my younger days because my dad and brother would always be having The Next Generation.
Love it.
On TV whenever it was on. Yeah.
To this day, I have not watched a Star Trek show that isn't the newest one that's on CBS All Access. So I have no real reference to Star Trek shows.
Damn. You're missing out on a lot.
We're not here to talk about Star Trek.
I definitely watched the first movies, like episode 4, 5, 6, when I was very young, because I remember being a huge fan of Return of the Jedi, because I was big into the Ewoks.
Me too.
Because who wasn't, you know?
Especially at like 6 years old.
Yeah. It must have been about that age, because I remember very distinctly going to an IMAX theater to watch episode 1 when it came out. That was super excited for that. That was in 2000.
2000. I was going to say I think I was in 6th grade.
Yep.
And my family took us all out of school.
I did not watch
1999, sorry.
I did not watch the first prequel movie until after it came out in home theater, like home video. I remember people going to the midnight release, but I wasn't a Star Wars fan then. I had never seen anything. So I know at that point in 2000 I did not care very much.
That's really interesting. Cuz that I feel like I was like 15 or 16, but I was way younger. And I remember being super hyped to see the movie. We waited in line, did the glasses and everything. The 3D glasses. And then being really bummed because I would have to wait at least another year or two or more to wait for the next one.
I don't remember it being 3D.
Maybe I'm just thinking of a big format screen.
I think you're thinking big format. because
Well, our shitty hometown theater was like this little dinky rinky dink thing. That's
Dipson Theaters is the rinky dink one.
I'm definitely similar to what you are. Family grew up loving Star Wars. My dad saw it like in the theaters when he was a kid. My mom doesn't tell stories about seeing it in the theaters, I don't think, but she really enjoyed them as well. And so I grew up like staying home from school. I would watch one or several different movies. Usually I would watch a Star Wars and Princess Bride, something like that. And it just like, I really enjoyed the world of it. So yeah, and I went to all the prequels. I'm sure I loved them every single time when I went to them as a kid, and only after the movie, when people were complaining about it, realized the quality. But yeah, so longtime Star Wars fan, really enjoyed the IP still.
Yeah.
But have my problems.
Yeah, for sure. I think watching the movies definitely kicked off my excitement for it. And then it was the video games was super huge for me. So Dark Forces, the shooter game, the Doom ripoff. Mm-hmm. And then it was like the Jedi Knight series, TIE Fighter we had on our super old computer. So this was
so hard.
This was on our 386 from a long ass time ago, like a DOS game. So that's how long I've been into it. And we had a joystick and everything for it. The X-Wing Alliance was a big one that I liked. We used to play a lot of multiplayer for that.
Rebel Assault 2.
Didn't play that one. Heard it was good.
It's fun.
I was all PC. I didn't play any of the console ones because I know that there's some good ones on the console. Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, favorite Star Wars game, hands down. Easy.
Those are
Easy.
good.
Never have I ever played a Star Wars video game.
KOTOR ones are pretty fun. If you like the strategy type. But anyway,
son holds the record at the Strong Museum of Play on whatever X-Wing or whatever flying simulator game is there, though.
Nice.
Whoa.
A child prodigy.
He's very good at it.
Anyway.
So who's Porkin Palpy?
Who's Porkin Palpy?
So, yeah, I think hearing what you have to say about it would be a good refresher.
So I saw it on the 15th of January, so about a month ago. And
At the record show.
At the record show, yep. And it was good. The thing is, the new series, the new trilogy, whatever you call it, is just to me a complete retelling of 4, 5, and 6. And that's good on one hand, because everyone wants to go to a Star Wars movie and see a Star Wars movie. Do you know what I'm saying? Like a space opera that's not too serious, but has a really huge background and big, world building, and there's all these different things that happen that are very Star Wars-y, and you want to have that feeling, and you want to walk away feeling like, oh, I watched a Star Wars movie. And that's great. And you've got the Death Star, you've got the, classic good versus evil, the good guys win in the end. It's just classic. But I was really hoping for something new, not just a retelling of the old. And it also felt like they didn't really know where they were going as they were writing it. And unfortunately, that's probably because Carrie Fisher died halfway through the filming. So they probably had to rewrite and change a whole bunch of things in the script. But it definitely felt like they had an idea of where they wanted to go with it, and then had to completely rewrite it. And it kind of gets lost along the way. It finds itself in the end. It ties it all together for the most part. Leaves the door open for some sequels, prequels, whatever you want to call them. There's a lot of questions that are unanswered, but overall, I think it was a little bit of a missed potential, but at the same time being a really fun watch.
Rumor has it that George Lucas had a plan for the entirety of the series before, or when Disney bought Lucasfilms, and they were like, "Nah, we good, thanks though."
Because what do you feel about that? Because of what he did with episode 1, 2, 3, would that have been a better trilogy than what we got if he was in charge of it all?
Well, I think after 1, 2, and 3, he wouldn't have gone as heavy on the bad CGI.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'd like to see a remake of that with better CGI, and well, just a remake in general.
I think he was just super excited to have CGI at all because of all of the hours they went through to build the initial special effects in the old trilogy.
Well,
must have been like, oh shit, I can do it in 2 minutes compared to
Industrial
hours
Light and Magic. Like that's his whole thing.
Yeah. I'm really impressed that those special effects still hold up pretty well, even with the tiny miniature models and all that.
From the 70s, you
In
mean?
the 70s, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty impressed.
Anyway, so your thoughts. Go on. All
right,
Your
so
thoughts.
the biggest thing that I had an issue with was them rewriting the rules of the Force as we know it. So everything that we have seen them able to do with the Force was completely changed when we see them sending objects through space and time, like lightsabers through space and time, like the Vader's helmet.
That's pretty
down
strong.
to the Earth, not the Earth, the planet that she was on, whatever you call it. And it's like, okay, suddenly Force ghosts can interact with the world.
Yeah.
So if Force ghosts can interact with the world and do all of that, you know, come back and fight. Essentially, when Luke was a Force, well, he was projecting himself, but if Force ghosts can come back and interact with the world, then death doesn't matter at all. There's no consequence for dying if you're a Jedi. They didn't expand on that at all. So that was a pretty big thing.
That takes away all of Anakin's fear.
Exactly.
Completely. His entire motivation for starting this whole downward spiral is
friend of the show.
Moot 30 years after the fact.
Exactly. The entire reason Anakin turned to the dark side was he couldn't save Padme. And Palpatine was like, oh, only the Sith can bring back the dead, but only kinda, so like you can try, LOL. And like, meanwhile, fucking
turns
Rey
out
has
that's
all
not
these
true
healing
at all.
powers.
Turns out that's not fucking true at all.
Yeah. Kylo brings her back to life, easy peasy. Like, what about the whole tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, right? That was thrown out completely by Rey, who has no training whatsoever. It doesn't make sense.
No, that's not true. She did not have training. We find out later on that she fucking trained for a long fucking time.
Did we?
Yeah, Leia trained her.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
but
but
not
we find
for a
that's
really
like
long time.
It's like a throwaway line.
How long was she
throwaway.
training for?
Fucking Luke was in a goddamn swamp for a long weekend. It doesn't matter how long. He did some fucking squats with Yoda on his back, and he lifted the X-wing out of the fucking thing.
Yeah,
I was
can
mad
we
about
stop
that
with
when
lifting
people-
the X-wings? For the love of God, Jesus.
Oh, and they get even hard. The Force lift it. The Force Ghost lift the X-wing. I was so mad.
Yeah, it's like your final test of strength is to lift an
Why couldn't you
X-wing.
point into it?
No, Luke essentially went, and you get a brand new car. And it
Yeah.
just fucking comes up out like, God damn it. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why are we pandering so hard when they know that story would still reach adults and children at the same time? And
Yep.
don't get me wrong, I'm going to shit on these movies for the entire episode, but I like Star Wars very
Same.
much.
Very much. Very much. There was too
And
much
I will
pandering.
watch them again.
It was
Yeah.
way too much pandering. It was too many, they did that in the last movie. I get it. Haha, throwback, callback. But it was too much. It was just too much. And some of the lines were just way too campy, way too silly. The original Star Wars movies had that, but they weren't, and they didn't take themselves too seriously. But
they
it
had
was,
character humor.
but
I
it wasn't
feel
just
like.
humor for humor's sake. You know what I mean? Like you don't introduce
Luke
a character
saying,
and have
what's
them all
that
be campy.
flashing thing, and Han slapping his hand in the fourth movie. That's funny because Han is grumpy and loves his ship, and Luke's a whiny baby.
Yes.
They're just playing their parts, but it's not like, winking at the audience trying to get a laugh.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not only the humor, but also I wish I brushed up more on this, but like how they conveniently find the Millennium Falcon, like immediately. It just happens to be there. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, it was all just too convenient, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many worlds in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
it
I
just
get
happened
it.
to be on that one.
Merchandising and branding and shit
Yeah.
like that. Like, I understand.
Yeah.
And they can't make a new ship that will sell better.
Yeah, of course. Right. I get it. But it was a little too convenient, all of it.
So I liked The Force Awakens a lot, and I thought the retelling aspect of it was a great idea to like link back to the old trilogy and still refreshing the content a bit. I thought that was really clever. I thought it was smart. I thought that the rest, like maybe the general arc would stay the same as the original, but there would be like some new elements to it. So I wasn't as upset about that as you were, but I do think that they tried too hard to link to the past and like make it too many winks at the audience.
Yeah.
Overall.
What'd you think, Cody?
overall, I think that I think the same thing about the entire saga that I do about the last movie is that they have squandered away the potential for an amazing story that could have been told over the course of like not only our generation, our parents' generation, but like the next 3 or 4 with even the Skywalker saga. Even going to the prequels, they have continuously like dredged out the good stuff and the character depth and the lore and glossed over the entire thing so that they can make it look nice and flashy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so every bit of it, I just want to dive deeper into what the potential could have been.
Mm-hmm.
So for the latest film, right? I actually think it's cool that Palpatine survived, right? And went out to the Outer Rim and
that didn't seem hand-fisted as fuck to you. Just like the fact that Palpatine's back because we need a relatable villain.
No. Now take it at face value.
They don't explain how he survived.
Face value, Daniel.
Okay,
face value.
Fine. All right, face value.
The biggest villain in the entire saga has now shown up at the climax with a fucking destroyer armada full of the power of all the Siths. Like that is space opera at its finest.
Okay. All right.
Right. They created the genre. They developed the genre and they are ending the genre right there. Right. However, there are so many plot holes and misleadings that it feels incredibly hand over fist. Mm-hmm. But if you take these things at face value, if somebody were giving you a 10-minute rundown of what the 9 Star Wars movies are, you're going to hear that last part and go, holy shit, the villain's back.
Yeah.
And think it's the coolest thing ever. And you go, by the way, the entire time this girl was his granddaughter and he's been manipulating the entire, cast through the Force the entire time. You're like, oh shit, that's awesome. But we've been told so many things that just don't line up that us who pay attention go, God damn it. Like that's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've taken what could have been one of the coolest and most detailed stories and really, really just hollowed it out.
John, what'd you think of Palpy coming back?
I didn't like it. I like the Force being seen as a non-dynastic entity, that it kind of affects all creatures in the universe and is available to everybody, and doesn't live by these family bloodlines. I think that was the cheapest trick that they pulled. And I kind of agree that like what you're saying, Cody, is accurate. Like if you have this villain who dies, if you're looking at the whole thing kind of midway and then you resurrect him for the end, it can be kind of like cliche or campy in a way, but it would be a pretty cool finale. Like,
yeah.
I could see that working, but I don't like the Force being passed down from mother to a child, in this dynastic way that like you're only important if you are from this family, and that's how you get really powerful. Yeah, I think that aspect is bad.
Originally, when you watch the original trilogy, they make it seem as though the Force is this all-encompassing thing. But if you also think about it, when you take into account the prequels, which I had just recently watched, how do I explain this? So I was telling you guys before, it does not feel as though it is set in the same world. Right. At this point, we are pre-Empire, and the Jedi Order seem like a bunch of arrogant, whiny bitches.
Jocks.
They do. They seem like jocks, and they're they've bastardized the Jedi Order, which in the original trilogy, they talk about like they are romanticizing things in the past that didn't exist. So I was thinking about this while I was watching it, and they've never addressed that, is that the Jedi who are still alive or learning the Force in the original trilogy have been told the romanticized version of what the Jedi Order was, and then in the prequel trilogy we see what it actually was. And in reality, it was really just a elite club of people who have learned how to manipulate and bastardize what the Force actually is.
Yeah.
And that's who is left again at the end, are the people who have been romanticized or told that it's this amazing, great thing, like hippy dippy bullshit.
Right.
But the people with the actual power left are the ones who are the remnants of the ones who have bastardized the entire thing.
Right.
So like, I get your point and I totally agree. But in my head, I've wrapped it around, this is what they've given us, therefore it is true, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
In reality, what they are taught and what those ancient texts probably did say was, this is the Force, it is a balance of everything. But Luke didn't see that until he was on a secluded planet island thingy for, you know, however long he was there. And that's when he was like, oh shit, we messed up. Yoda went into isolation, went, oh shit, we messed up. ObiWan did the same thing. Oh shit, we messed up. And Palpy was like, nope, we're doing this.
Double down.
And that's what's left. And so I think Yoda, when he forced lightning to the tree of knowledge or whatever it was like, you don't need this shit anymore because we've already fucked it up. Like, it's going to go how it's going to go. This actually needs to die now because we did this. It really didn't work out that way. And I think that sometimes I get hung up when I get mad about it. I get hung up on the fact that it isn't what ObiWan had talked about essentially and what Yoda had talked about in the original trilogy. Therefore, I am mad. But in reality, we were presented with proof that it was never that in the time frame that we've seen it.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to look at it. And I would love a bigger story arc showing that kind of the focusing on
in the fall.
Exactly, the bastardization of it and the deification of the like Jedi Knights, when in reality they were more of like this inept force that couldn't keep a hold on the galaxy. And showing that, but then at the end, if they had focused on that at the end and then turned Rey into kind of the new era of it, I think that would be a really cool effect too. Is like maybe the thing that almost turns her to the dark side is like Palpatine showing her all of these like histories and how it all played out, and like, you know, this to be true. The same type of words and like style and effect that he tried to use on Luke that didn't work.
Literally the same shot for shot. Look at your friends out there fighting. They can't do it. They're gonna die. Join me, and I'll stop. I won't kill them. It was just like the same thing. But it'd be really cool to tie it back to like the history, because like she can trust her friends or whatever, but if she is like, she's living by this whole ideal that doesn't exist, and I think shaking her faith of that would have been more interesting than trying to be like, your friends are dying or whatever. Yeah.
Well, at the end, but like, unless you're a big Star Wars fan, you don't know it. Like, she has the yellow lightsaber, which is somebody who figured out like the balance of all these things and the history behind them. They value scholarly research of the Force and how to use it in combat.
Right. So it's a theoretical sentinel, which were the protectors of the Jedi temples and the Order themselves. Yeah. And
so like technically she did kind of come into that, right? But we don't know that. And the people watching just the movies do not know that.
No, right.
And so like they've glossed over the things that could have been like in your face, deep and filled with lore, but they didn't do that.
And instead threw in like exact same lines that were from the previous movies or shot for shot reenactments of previous movies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they also like burning the tree of life or whatever doesn't matter either, because she had the books. Like that was totally, it's the same thing as like when Chewie died. That doesn't fucking matter. That whole scene doesn't matter.
No, right.
Because he's shown as being alive in the next
immediately
beat.
after.
I hate that trope, by the way. Like,
also, there were 2 transport ships in the desert.
Stupid.
Yeah. It's like I just hate it. I hate everything about that scene.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to get mad about for that thing, but like I think the major point that you're making, Cody, is super good and really accurate. That like they're focusing on the wrong things. They have this really good story that they could link all this shit together. They have this huge expanded universe that they could link to, but they really just don't grab hold of it because of the most common denominator, I guess, is what they're hoping for.
The fan service. They wanted to make sure everyone would love the movie. or
and
enjoy it at least. And they did.
And
they did a good job at that.
And each one did a bad thing where they came up with the best story-driven tale that could have been told and sold it as a character-driven story.
Right.
And it's not.
It's not at all.
Because they are all very, very, very weak and non-developmental characters because things flip like a coin. Like they literally, you are bad, then you are good, or you are good, then you are bad.
Mm-hmm.
Or you are true, and this is who Poe Dameron is, and he will not change. This is who Han Solo is, he will not change.
Right.
But the only ones that do change are the people who change at the very last moment.
So I do
Darth
think
Vader
they did
at the very last moment.
I think they did a good job with Kylo, though, because they showed him all throughout the series struggling.
No, I disagree. I think they almost had it at a couple of
It was close.
But his rage showed otherwise up until the very end.
There were fewer and fewer breaks in it, and his only weak point was Rey, and then it was like Cody said, a coin flip.
And you didn't know why exactly.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
He killed his fucking dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he didn't feel bad about that necessarily.
Until the very end.
He struggled with it because he was still trying to get his mom's approval. But then she reached out and talked to him, and he was like, "Oh, you're right." And that was strange.
That was strange. Yeah.
So I have some hearsay, which was a Reddit post that I believe Mantis posted, or somebody on Discord posted of
the artist formerly known as Mantis.
Sorry, that there was someone close to the production or something like that, told a friend, super second tertiary hand or whatever, and very hearsay, but supposedly there was supposed to be a greater focus on that transformation, and that what happened is Rey killed Kylo Ren and saved Ben in that sequence, and it was through Leia's actions that was supposed to happen. Leia basically was opening the door for him, and at the same time, Rey
kills him,
stabs him up, and then with her healing power heals him. But it wasn't explained at all. There was supposed to be a bigger focus where they kind of dwelled on it and made it more impactful, but it was not done in the cut that we showed.
But even that doesn't make sense because they didn't introduce that ability to do that, open a person up metaphorically so that their good side can come out. That was never introduced in the previous 8 films. And so introducing that now goes, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, Vader switched like that instantly.
Yeah, but they didn't save Vader. Vader changed, right?
Yeah, but nothing.
Vader's thing was family, right?
But there was no build up to that. I feel like I'm going to change. I might change. I'm seeing I'm hesitating now. It was just oh, nope. All right. I don't want him to fuck with my son anymore. So down the chute, Palpy.
Well, that kind of in the second movie, he wanted to over Palpy with his son. That's what he was trying to get Luke to do. Not the second movie.
That's true. He did say when he's hanging on the thing, join me.
Yeah, he's like, my dude's alive. How did he do this? I want to join with him and destroy this galaxy together because we're cool ass dudes. And that's Vader's elevator pitch, right? But so there was at least some transformation, and there were hints at that Kylo Ren changing over, so I don't want to be too harsh on it, but it did feel very quick and extreme in the movie. Yeah.
I guess I'm on board with that. I think I'm hung up on the fact that Adam Driver is such a good actor, and he's probably the best character in the entire new trilogy. I think he was the most fun to watch, at least.
Him and the guy who plays Poe Dameron, whose name I can't remember. Oscar Isaacs. Yeah, they are truly amazing actors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And their characters had the worst kind of arcs in it.
Oh,
because they played the roles of Darth Vader and Han Solo, who were who they were because they were.
It was reused.
Anakin was always bad. You could sense it. Yoda said, "I sense much fear in you. That fear leads to whatever it leads to, and you're going to be a dick someday."
Put that on a shirt.
Yeah, but they were always who they were until the very end. And yes, each of them had moments where they could have switched over, but that's just part of the storytelling, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
we're going to show you how evil they are by challenging their thought processes, and then they're going to be bad again. And then, oh, wait, they're good.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing as the Jedi always pretending to be just like holier than thou. We're peacekeepers. We're peacekeepers. Yeah. Remember? We're peacekeepers. Peacekeepers.
Smash, flash, kill.
So the interesting thing, one of my favorite YouTubers, this guy that I keep sending everybody that I know his videos, is Just Right, and I know I've sent some to Cody and Dan. He did a analysis of The Last Jedi, and based on his evidence, The Last Jedi is actually where character development happens most. They actually give character arcs to a lot of people, including Rose, including Poe.
Don't get me started on Rose.
Away the Rose character completely.
So that it was super interesting how much people hated it, and it was not well executed, probably for any number of reasons, and there are a lot of reasons to hate the movie. But I think if you go check out this video, you might be convinced that there is actual character development in The Last Jedi, but that's pretty much all it happens, and it gets basically rewritten in the next movie.
The space horses were dumb as hell. I'm sorry.
Space horses on the ship in 9. In 9.
Yep.
I like the cavalry on the ship. I thought that was a cool idea.
I thought it was dumb as hell.
That's fair. I just thought space cavalry is cool to me.
What I thought was weird about that, and I know we don't pay attention to it at all during this series, is like atmosphere and oxygen and shit. And then I went like, these ships are fucking flying right now. What's like? There's clearly no gravity because they're not like thrusting from the ground. They're just floating. Like what the hell is going on?
But it was all the lightning that oxidized some elements and created
It's the Force. It's just the Force.
So there was a point that I wanted to make up that wasn't story driven. So we shit on these all the time, but each trilogy served the franchise in a very specific way. So the original trilogy gave us the characters and the world to build around, right?
Mm-hmm.
The prequel trilogy gave us the backstory and the cool lore part of it all. Because they talk about a lot of it gave us the tale of Darth Plagueis, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. Like hands down one of the coolest tales for them to tell. And the scene, if you don't pay attention to where they are in the shitty CGI of the weird opera thing they were at, is actually one of the best scenes in the entire trilogy. And then the newest trilogy gave us a very clear and like enormous sense of the galaxy they were in. So each of the episodes opened up with like an amazing shot of the planets they were on, and like built the actual physical world better than any of the others had previously done. And so like I will give them that for like the value that each of them had, but they were so disjointed in their tones and themes, probably because they were so far apart, but also just because the storytelling focused on different aspects, right? Because you have different showrunners, you have different producing, you have all this stuff, and it just
different directors even
quite work.
And the committee of Disney, don't forget.
Yeah, for sure. But Disney, I don't think is necessarily just to blame here. They did deal with a lot of stuff, and it probably would have worked out differently. I don't think the Disney showrunners were, or like Bob Iger, I don't think he was sitting there saying, no, we need to get all the branding. I think their directive was probably, it needs to be merchandised and branded, but we also need to make really good quality content.
No, but there's a lot of evidence to say that there are so many hands in that pot. That's the thing. It's not Bob Iger like with the final say. It's that there are so many people that give approval or notes or say, oh, we can do this, we can't do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That, again, was referenced in this Reddit post, which I will find so that we can link that if we want to, where there's just so many decisions that left up to the crew and JJ. The cut would have been much different. The way the movie played out would have been so much different.
Agreed.
In the end, they just went the safe route. They just went the safe route.
Exactly, which is what Disney wants.
Exactly. It sells action figures. It sells merchandise. It sells movie tickets.
And I want to go back to what you were saying, Cody, about like showing the planets. They did a really good job of setting those places up. But unlike the other, like the original trilogy, they don't stay there. Like
they were irrelevant pieces, you know? They were irrelevant
completely.
planets to be on.
So I feel like they just gave the intro and then just tossed them aside.
Yep.
And we're never going to see those planets ever again. I don't remember the name of a single planet
Nope.
that they were on.
They
but
blew up
I
a ton of
still
planets. Didn't care.
I remember Coruscant. I remember Tatooine. Like those
Alderaan.
are Alderaan, the third moon of Alderaan, or
Forest
the
moon of
third
Endor.
moon of Endor. All that stuff like that sticks in your head because you go there and you stay there. Hoth is a huge one.
Huge.
And Dagobah, the swamp planet. Like part of it is that like we said, we watch these movies a
Yavin
decent
4.
number of times. They've been around. Diablo 4?
Oh, Yavin or Yavin?
Oh,
Yavin 4.
Yavin 4.
Yep.
So part of it is like the repetition of wanting to watch these movies, but part of it is that those places are set up. There are scenes in there, scene after scene after scene, where you see how the characters interact with the world and the place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they did a poor job of actually displaying those planets well.
All right, I just read through the planets that are in The Rise of Skywalker, and I did not remember a single one.
I'm excited.
Exegol.
Oh, I do remember, that one.
name,
That was the fifth one.
I don't remember which one it was.
Kloss.
Say it again?
No, I don't.
Ajin Kloss.
Nope, got nothing.
Okay. Aki Aki.
No.
That means here in Spanish.
Kijimi.
Nope.
Kef Beer.
Nope.
Yep. Those are all the ones in The Rise of Skywalker.
And some of those, at least one of those, got nuked, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't care
One
about
of
that. Yeah.
Let's talk about the prequels.
Let's.
Because what you brought up was really interesting. I forget what you were saying about the prequels, Cody, but I thought it was starting off on a good point.
That they had built the lore around everything that mattered, and that we had seen the actual factual version of what the Jedi had romanticized in the original trilogy.
Right. Well, the other interesting thing about that is if you think about it like you were saying, in the big picture context, this is the result of a dying empire. One person can't overthrow a full republic without there being problems inside, right? So this what you're seeing are like the symptoms, the issues that have cropped up over the years. So this isn't the height of Jedi like power or anything like that, but this is like the downfall of it. Which is kind of interesting to frame it like that.
What I gathered from watching the prequel trilogy is they have the Senate, which is too big to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, the Jedi were truly like a hippy-dippy peacekeeping sect, sort of like just a real religion that kind of took over and kind of helped work out problems within the galaxy, and they were peacekeepers. And now they are like the elitist peacekeepers that try to counsel everybody on what they should or should not do, and they work for the Senate.
Right.
And so they have the Senate's best interest in mind and not necessarily democracy's best interest in mind.
Right.
And so I also feel like it seemed bigger to me than it should have, but with less Jedi, if that makes any sense. The institution of the Jedi seemed much larger than the amount of Jedi that there actually were, and they didn't seem all that skilled.
Right.
They kept making jokes about aggressive negotiations, but that really just meant that they didn't know how to handle actual peacekeeping tactics anymore without their mind tricks and fighting.
Yeah.
And so they became the bullies of the schoolyard, sort of. If they didn't get their way, the Senate was going to get what the Senate wanted, and they trusted the Senate, and the Senate trusted them to take care of it.
Right. So the interesting thing about that is you're taking something that is basically done for the good of the movie and for the viewer of the movie, and turning it into the lore of the universe, which is the only thing you can do, right? But it's kind of like we're meant to believe that they are good negotiators and everything like that. But as you're saying, the only thing we see is like cutting people down and like droidicas and stuff. So like it's really I the Jedi sect is super interesting. How you mentioned like there are like 10 masters or something like that, and there's like hundreds of kids that we see at some point in the third movie or whatever. But where are all the other Jedis? And a lot of them are talked about in like the Clone Wars show and that kind of thing. They're off doing their own thing, but I feel like you're right. They don't show us enough of the diplomacy that they're supposed to have, or like the control that they're supposed to have, or the finesse that they're supposed to have.
But you don't think that that's what they were going for, right? Like you think that that's our interpretation of it. Like they didn't necessarily want us to think what Cody is describing.
Well, that's what makes me mad about it, is that it wasn't their intention.
Yeah,
right.
And so that's why it seems very disjointed, is because I can come up with what I think is a better, more holistic idea of the storyline here.
Yeah.
And they're going to go, well, it's up to the viewer, or no, or yeah, that's exactly what we were thinking.
Yeah. Well, I like this because you could probably take the movies and edit them down into your own version that would support this and be really cool. Like you could probably take it all.
Speaking of that, today, just before this, I was watching some YouTube stuff, and I saw a thing. Oh no, I was watching a TikTok, and somebody had said, look up SC-38 reimagined. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And I looked it up, and somebody literally took ObiWan and Darth Vader's fight and reimagined the whole thing, and it looks amazing.
Yeah.
It
I
looks
heard about this.
amazing. It's 6.5 minutes long, and it is literally the scene where Obi-Wan gets killed by Darth Vader, and it is so intense and so satisfying that they just need to put that thing in the movie. Essentially, so like the CGI was pretty damn good, and they had like made it so when the fight is better and less like old manish, and and they cut in the scenes from the actual movie, and it looks so legit. It's awesome. The fight is intense because he says like whatever line they say before they start fighting, but then it's really aggressive, but not super finessed. And so like you can tell that Obi-Wan and Darth are kind of older, and like they're not really moving as well, but they're fighting with such brute force because this is the fight.
Yeah.
This is the thing. At one point, Darth tries to like throw a thing of metal at Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan cuts it in half, and then he throws some barrel things at Darth Vader, and they blow up, and Darth just pummels through the fire, and he's like, his arm is on fire, and he's just swinging and slashing, and like they're going at it.
Damn.
And then by the time that, you know, it comes to the time where he slashes him dead, they made it more significant that he didn't just like give up, that he had an intent to give up.
Right.
And so he does it, and you see the lightsaber slash through the robes instead of just tap him and he kind of goes away. And then he checks to see where he went, because at that point he does not know. And so when Luke sees it, screams Ben, and the troopers start firing again, he closes the doors, the bay doors, and Darth goes to like open it back up, and he hears Obi-Wan's Force Ghost talk to Luke. And he goes, Kenobi? And then like that was like the end scene.
That's really cool.
And so it becomes much more significant later on.
Yeah.
When we know that these things are real. But we're like, well, you know, until the Kenobi series, we're not going to see, you know, Qui-Gon come back.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume that has to be part of it. Like, what other reason is he going to just hang out on Tatooine forever?
Yeah. It's just be him chilling with the Jawas.
Yeah. Like, it's not going to be that much if we're not learning what happened and how he got back to the point where he was powerful enough to take on Darth Vader, take on giving Luke the thing. Like, how do we know that that was time? How do we know that that was the right time to push this story forward again?
Yeah.
To get Luke on the path to doing this, because that's what makes it a dynastic story, right?
Right. I wanted to go back to that because I know that like Luke is kind of the indicator that it should be a dynastic story, but he's not told that he's like gonna be great or like even a Jedi himself. Well, I guess Obi-Wan kind of
wanted
says,
him to have it, and he's like, "How the fuck do you know that?"
Yeah. It's like, you knew my father. Yeah. So it's not set up in the same way, but you could look at it as like Obi-Wan knowing that he will be strong in the Force and that kind of thing. But he's never really shown to be actually that adept with the Force. Yeah. And he's only like fine with lightsabers too, which makes sense given his 3-day spa weekend.
Listen, the exact same thing could be said about Obi-Wan though. Nothing about Obi-Wan's powers shows that he is a competent Jedi in the prequel trilogy. Nothing.
So I think I would say that he has clearly a lot of experience. Like you can see if you compare him to like Anakin later on in the trilogy or Luke in the next movies, or any of them, he clearly has the Jedi training that is instilled from a young age. Like I think he is like more reserved. Like he still lets his emotions out, but he's like more reserved and more like, kind of frowning at everybody for being annoying.
Yeah.
But I feel like he gives off that Jedi energy pretty well.
He's sort of like the guy who won't let you cheat off a quiz in like middle school.
Yeah.
But it's also stated like multiple times that we see him mess up a lot, right? We see him not really being all that competent when it comes to certain things. And he admits that Anakin has saved his own life 9 times.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they are equals and they are fighting as equals when he is, barely a Jedi Master. Well, they won't even give him the title of Master.
Yeah.
But later on they actually do, which is strange to me. So like
doesn't make any sense.
At some point they call him Master Skywalker and I was like, no, because he's throwing a shit fit that he's on the council because Palpatine, which is your first fucking clue that he's not a master, he's just on the seat because Palpatine says so, which is like, oh, by the way, we literally work for the Senate. We are not separate. We are not unbiased here. We are literally serving the Senate.
Right.
And if they're so fucking powerful, why are they allowing Palpatine to take over dictatorial powers here? Oh, I swear I'll give them up. If they say they swear they'll give them up when they're taking power, guess what, motherfucker? They're never giving those powers up. That was hail.
I don't want to pull us off topic too much, but you're kind of getting to the point. Why I think the prequels were garbage trash is just because of all the politics. And I say that as a young teenager who watched all these movies and enjoyed them for the lightsaber fights. And I know that there has to be world building and there has to be structure and background and, all that stuff. But all of the Senate stuff, it just was so boring. And it just was not fun to watch.
Maybe the answer here is that they've accidentally opened up this world to be the greatest adult story.
Yeah.
But their intent was a family-driven, entertaining saga.
Yeah. And thus the clash.
And those things will never mesh well. Is that we and everybody grows up. So eventually, everybody who watches these films is going to see it for what they are and wish that it was how they felt when they were 10.
Yeah, true. Right.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing because, again, I'm going to watch all these movies a million times over. Like I bought Disney Plus just to pretty much watch Star Wars content. And I'm even watching the Clone Wars and stuff, which I don't think they're very good, but I'm going to watch all of them.
My little brother says it gets pretty good.
So it has to, right? Because everybody loves it. But right now I'm like 6 episodes in and I was like, technically it's the same story, but there's nothing keeping me coming back other than the fact that I know it's going to be a good story.
Well, I think it gives you a longer look at the path to Anakin's darkness. Like, I think it's more of like that character building that you want. I think it does more about that and gives you more exposure to the universe overall, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, and then like there's Star Wars Rebels, and then there's another one out that has the newest characters in it as well.
We didn't talk about the Mandalorian at all. I'm thinking like that's the only way we're going to get new content or expansion on the universe.
That's the only way we'll get deep and satisfying content is like through the expanded stuff.
Yeah.
which is what the fans have known all along. All of them, like all the like extended universe fans, freaking love that stuff because it goes in deep and explains more and gives you more context and has really cool stories.
Yeah, because it's not all riding on a 3-hour movie where they have to make
designed to appeal to everybody in the world.
Yes. So accurate.
Going back to what Dan said about the political drama aspect is you can do political dramas really well. And like, I mean, Game of Thrones is a political drama with action scenes and stuff in it. Like you can accomplish that. It's not for kids, but there is like a world where like a George R. Martin type takes the Star Wars lore from the prequels and makes a compelling like storyline for it.
Think about the kinky shit they would do with the Force. God damn.
I think you could do it well, and it would be pretty interesting to see that. But there has to be that balance of lightsaber duels and Force stuff, which is one of the main reasons that I watch. I loved in The Last Jedi the Kylo Ren and Rey fight in Snoke's chamber. Was so cool to watch these Force wielding, lightsaber wielding Force users go ham on a bunch of guardsmen. That I loved watching that, and I love in The Force Awakens when it's the very beginning, when Poe shoots at Kylo Ren, and he fucking stops it with the Force.
Yeah,
he stops the blast, and it makes this like crackly sound as it gets close to it.
The static tension in that scene was like, whoa.
So good.
It was so cool seeing that in the theater. So like I love that kind of stuff. There's good ways to handle it, and like I think the expansion of the Force powers of like passing things through space-time is kind of ridiculous. I kind of would have liked it if the twist, how Palpatine came back, is he was a Force ghost, because he had like, we haven't seen any Sith come back as a Force ghost, right?
That's true. Yeah.
I think that would be a really interesting turn, and that would be how he like came back and then was manipulating from behind the scenes, kind of like what we were talking about, but in a more like in your head, making you think about like almost how people think of the devil. Like the devil makes you think about this kind of stuff or whatever.
That would have given validity to his lies that only Sith can bring people back from the dead, because in his mind, you know, it's so warped that he would lie to get what he wants no matter what. So he's tricking Anakin into believing he could save Padme's life, when in reality, he just knows that like the Force ghost thing is real, and in his head, death doesn't matter.
Right.
It's not real, because he doesn't care about Anakin. He cares about his power.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. I still just don't understand why they brought him back. I mean, I do. I understand why, but I just don't. I struggle with the fact that they didn't explain it at all. And it was
what
just
happened
like,
with his failed marriage?
He's back. Yeah, what happened with his failed marriage? Where's his
like
wife?
She couldn't have been too pleased when he became the fucking emperor and came home all fucking warped.
Yeah.
Do you think they'd have like plastic surgery for that? I don't think they needed to explain why the Emperor looked nasty in the sixth movie.
No, yeah, he's just so evil that you just start looking nasty the more evil you are. I think that's just
it's true in video games.
Yeah.
But it did give Mace Windu a good enough thing to show us who he was. He was not a good negotiator. He was a very headstrong person. Yeah, I think the purple lightsaber represents like fighting skills. And like genuine skill, like truly just in combat. I don't know that for sure. I probably should have looked that one up, but he like took down a Sith Lord essentially, and then Anakin fucked up, you know, or intentionally fucked up, but whatever. And so like that gave him an arc of somebody who was important that was affected negatively, who was right all along.
I need to rewatch the prequels. Is what it comes down to.
Do it, because it's worthwhile, and to be honest with you, they're my favorite trilogy.
Even with Jar Jar, the Sith Lord?
That was truly painful to watch, but yes, even with Jar Jar,
and even with the terrible plot, or not terrible plot, the terrible
CGI.
script.
Yes,
CGI.
because it gave us things to work with in it, and it brought to life the characters who had no depth in the second trilogy or the original trilogy. So like I appreciate that because I like story. I like the development of everything, and that really got to me. I just wish it was like the casting was terrible with the exception of Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Literally the exception of Obi-Wan. Everybody else was bad.
Qui-Gon was okay.
Okay, so Qui-Gon was okay, but you don't know enough about him to care when he dies.
Yeah, he was just a new character, and he didn't learn.
I did care.
I can't say that
but I was a child.
Itself was. Do you care now, though?
I haven't watched it in a long time.
Because when I rewatched it, I thought, this could be a really awesome character. And then he died, and I just went, there wasn't enough screen time between anyone that he was with that made it feel like somebody lost somebody truly important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know what it was? I think it was Obi-Wan's reaction to it. I think his... so again, going back to his acting.
Yeah, that's
I
more
think,
of a plus for Obi-Wan than it is for Qui-Gon.
Yeah, I think his reaction to it, like, he vocalizes and then you can see the anger and, like, as he's itching to get out of the, like, force lock that they put in that planet for some reason, to, like, go and kill Darth Maul. He's
not
like,
actually kill Darth Maul, however.
No, but that's what he wants to do. You can you can feel the energy just coming off of him, that he's staring daggers at him. That anyway, I thought that scene was really well done, but I think you're right. I don't think it's because of how Qui-Gon interacted with anyone. I think it's because of Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Makes sense, because Obi-Wan is the main, right? Yeah. Obi-Wan is the main, and he's not. Qui-Gon was the remnant of someone, because he was probably one of the only true and honorable. Even Yoda manipulated to get the things that he wanted, but and this is my weird, theory here. When you are genuinely smarter than everyone in the room, your brain does not work the way that it should to communicate clearly to everybody the intention.
Or if you can see the future.
So with Yoda, he knows so much more than everybody else because he is the strongest Jedi, that it is hard for him to explain the intent and lead everybody to point C when he is already at D.
Yeah, makes sense.
So he goes from A to E, and he's like, shit, okay, I'm going to speak in terms that'll make sense eventually, and they're just going to have to, like, learn to trust my instinct here. That's like Steve Jobs trying to explain shit to people, right? He would get mad and, like, just berate people, but he was smarter than everybody around him. And so he would, like, not be able to clearly explain what he was going for, and he felt that it wasn't relevant to explain that because they would just learn to trust him. But Qui-Gon was a good teacher, a good fighter, and saw the benefit of trying to help everybody. Hell, he even tried to get Anakin's mom and went like, okay, well, I understand that I couldn't get her, but I got your kid. And I hope that's enough. And she went, yeah, no, I get it, man. Right. But I doubt you would have gotten the same thing from a Yoda.
Right.
Yeah, probably not.
He's kind of like the relatable Yoda.
Yeah. He would have just checked out those midichlorians and been like, just gotta go. See ya.
Yo, can you run this blood test for me? There are a lot of midichlorians in here.
So looking up the purple lightsaber, it's mostly just the mix of light and blue, or red and blue, the light and dark side, and the fact that Sam L asked for purple.
Right, but they did create a lore outside of that because they had to explain it one way or another.
They did. Typically aggressive, bold, daring, leading the comrades fearlessly into battle.
Yeah. More or less, really good at
Says
combat.
Motherfucker.
Yeah. It's charismatic. Oftentimes, they share an affinity to lightsabers or one another. Good morals, but their hostility can sometimes misguide.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, they essentially just said, okay, what does he present here? Let's write that around that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because he's the only one.
Yeah.
And so now if they were going to do it, it's just a bunch of Samuel L. Jackson characters. If they showed more.
I saw something about Darth Revan having it, which is an old, like, Knights of the Old Republic stuff.
Doesn't matter.
Is that canon anymore?
Canon. Yeah.
It's not canon, no.
Yeah.
No, it's... So I bought my son
issue.
all the canon books, all the books that are canonical.
Canonical.
Is it? No, it's not.
Is it not?
I don't know if it is. Maybe. So like all the books that are considered canon, I bought him all of them, including the graphic novels for Christmas. They're relatively cheap because they're mass market now, right? So you can buy all of it, and it gives you backstory to everybody, and even people that I don't know. Like Phasma has a lot of backstory. There's like 2 books or 2 graphic novels and a book.
Wow.
That give her relevance to this universe.
But that just never comes across in the movies, and that's my biggest problem with it, is they didn't expand. They didn't grow the story.
kept
They
it
just
shallow.
retold what was already there. I felt nothing for any of the characters. I didn't learn about Captain Phasma at all, or Phasma, or whatever her name is. They hyped her up as this huge important character in all the prequels and all the interviews and not prequels, previews. I don't know what I said, but she turned out to be just a throwaway to me on screen.
Yep. I mean, Supreme Leader Snoke. This has been Dive. Like, I don't know what to say there. He was useless. He was literally, they went, well, we fucked that one up. He's a clone. Useless. Yeah. Somehow we genetically manufactured a force-sensitive clone.
Really bad at faces, though. Really bad at making faces.
Truly bad at faces.
Yeah.
Did you mind when Darth Snoke was killed at the so unceremoniously?
In the Red Room?
I was kind of just taken aback. I was like, oh, okay, he's dead. And who is he again? We never found out. All right, moving on.
Yeah, but at the same time, we were also like, wait, what? Rey's a nobody?
Yeah.
I liked that part.
I wish she
I
stayed
loved
a nobody.
it that she was a nobody. I went, oh, fuck, she is nobody. Because then at the end of that one, it was the kid who was just like the slave sweeper in the stalls. And they were like, anybody can be a Jedi. And every kid and / adult kid in the world was like, anyone can be a Jedi.
That means me.
Yeah,
and
then they were like, just kidding.
Just kidding.
You gotta be a Skywalker or a Palpatine.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the worst part of all this whole thing. I like when you bring it all together and they tie up the ending of that movie and you find out she's freaking Palpy's granddaughter, and then she buries the lightsaber on Tatooine, which is like the biggest slap in the face to Luke because he fucking hated that planet.
Yeah.
Like,
and like her parents
I
were
just get
good,
annoyed.
right? So I think this was a point brought up in a Just Right video about the most recent one, is like her struggle with good and evil is not compelling because she literally was always good.
Yeah,
and
right.
like,
yes.
And Palpatine's like, no, you're evil because of me. But forgets to mention that like her parents got away from it and died heroes trying to protect her.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you're evil. And she's like, not really, no. And that's
Skips a generation, I guess.
You don't even know me, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just way too powerful. That's my other issue.
I would like to add like a parting thought here, 2 parting thoughts, if we want to wrap this bad Johnny up.
I'm
Yeah, I
ready to
think we're
keep
circling.
going unless you want to wrap up.
I feel like at this point we're circling the same topic.
No, yeah. Oh, wait,
So-
one more thing. Before you have your parting thought, I need to talk about one more topic. Her and Kylo Ren kissing was dumb as hell.
For sure.
Yes,
Why did
so
they
was
kiss?
Luke and Leia.
Why?
So
Like,
was Luke and Leia.
I spent 5 minutes trying to figure out if they were related. Like, at least. Not even kidding you. I was like, I know who Rey is. I know who Kylo is. They're clearly not related, but they just kissed and like, wait, what? Are they related? Are we sure about that?
They're just keeping the traditions of
That's what I
relatives
thought. I was like, okay, I see that. We're calling back left and right. Why don't we call back with a little incest? I understand this now. But it was just dumb as hell. Like, it didn't make any sense.
right.
There was no
It doesn't
sexual
make
tension
sense.
between them at all. Nothing.
And I do feel like the last 45 minutes of the last movie were literally just, here we go. Strap up, everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Daenerys is burning down King's Landing, and we're just putting Bran on the throne.
Yeah, all right.
You know, it's,
Spoilers there.
Spoiler alert.
you should probably put spoiler alert before that one. Every single time I watch a Star Wars film, I never am sitting in there critiquing it. It's when I am done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go, I left The Last Jedi going, that was amazing. And then by the time I got home, I was like, oh, that sucked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to watch it again, but that sucked.
I left Rise of Skywalker feeling like I just watched a concert that was really good, and I would go home kind of sad that it's over. And then when I sat down and like started thinking about it more, and I went online and started reading what other people had to say about it, I was like, yeah, like there was a lot of flaws there, but it still was fun as hell. Like it was still really enjoyable.
I think when I left on the way home, I developed the thought of, I can't wait for whatever the next saga is going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're going to fix it. I know they will. I know that they are going to fix it because they don't have to pander to anything because it's going to be a new story.
Mm-hmm.
True.
And I'm really excited for that new story.
Nobody can say that Disney, when they start an original thing, is bad at storytelling.
No, but they still do have, like, they still do general appeals, which will make me worry about more of the, like, future.
A really good general appeal that you're talking about, and you've mentioned this before, John, is Baby Yoda. Like how, I don't know if it was you or it was Crandard saying how, like, that was a character created to sell merchandise.
I'm sure I'd said that.
Yeah.
The child, not Baby Yoda.
Sorry. Yeah. We were saying we're probably only going to get that new content with the expanded, quote unquote, expanded universe kind of spin-off series.
Right. I'm going to assume that ObiWan will be a continuation of the original saga and The Mandalorian will be the start of the new saga. My guess is that The Mandalorian itself will not be part of that. Like he will not be a part of it. I think that the child will now be the adult in the new saga because Yoda species live like 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so this could be anywhere from 100 years when it is like, you know, a young child or a teenager to 1,000 years from now when there is a new Senate or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's a lot of possibility here, and if they're taking their time and actually rebranding or relaunching a new story, I think it's going to be a lot better, and they get to make up their own lore, and they don't have to talk about anything Skywalker.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
They'll be able to build a relatively plot hole-less story.
I think so. Something that Just Right talked about plot holes is like try not to focus on them too much. Truly, what's the problem? If you're seeing plot holes, is the pacing of the movie.
Yeah, that was a really good one. When he was talking about pacing of movies, that was a really good one.
Yeah, and I think he was using Inception,
or like had like amazing pace.
Yeah, I think he was talking about Christopher Nolan movies in general in comparison to some things that like there are plot holes in Christopher Nolan, like The Dark Knight. Yeah. The Joker throws what's her name out the window and Batman jumps to grab her. Where does the Joker go? He just stays up there with all the old people? Like what happens? Like how does he get down? Like it's super weird. There's a lot of things that you can pick apart in movies. And so if you want to make plot holes in a movie, you can, because it's just going to happen. Editing, changes on set, like anything like that might happen.
One of the ones that he talked about with bad pacing was Aquaman. If I remember,
I never saw it.
Aquaman had bad pacing, therefore people were like, "This doesn't work."
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Like everything was interrupted with an action sequence instead of something else. He did that with another one too. I got to rewatch some of those. They're very good.
Well, he said he's good at giving a lot of exposition and making it seem exciting, but then you don't get a break from the action in something like Star Wars. Rise of Skywalker, because it's literally action beat to action beat to action beat. So there's no chance for your characters to like grow, basically.
Yeah, and he was pointing out in the newest movie how there is no real exposition between anyone.
Yeah.
There was like virtually none.
Right.
Because it was the action beat, but even in the Last Jedi, they had moments. And in this newest one, they had none. But I totally agree with you. I think that these movies are something that everyone is always going to want to come back to. And they were always something that'll disappoint in one way or another. But they have defined 3 generations at this point of science fiction and buying into the idea of grand space operas.
Yep.
And I think that is wonderful. And I can't wait for the next group of movies and TV shows to come out. And also, Uncle Owen is Joel Edgerton. And
no way.
It's fucking Joel Edgerton, a fat Joel Edgerton from, I don't know, he had to have been 20 years old. So this is Dive. We'll see you next time we do an episode. Love you, say it back.